Colin Radford is a philosopher that wrote an amazing paper called How Can We Be Moved by the Fate of Anna Karenina? So it sets up a very interesting paradox. How can we be moved by events that we know are fictional? Let's say you're watching a movie, it could be sci-fi, it could be realistic, or you're reading a book and you get emotional. You're somehow moved, happy, sad, you can cry. But how can that be if we know it's fictional? Especially if it's something sci-fi related that we know for sure couldn't actually happen in real life.
Imagine having a horrible nightmare that ruins your entire day. You tell someone about it and you just can't be pacified. But they keep telling you, it was just a dream, it was just a dream. And even though you know it was a fiction, you still can't help but feel moved by it. You can start seeing why this is rational once you realize that there are times in life where if someone tells you something's not real or didn't actually happen, you will immediately stop grieving.
Try and imagine this scenario. So you're having breakfast with a friend and they tell you about this absolutely horrific story about a family that burned in a fire alive, and there were children, God forbid, and animals, and it was just a horrible death, just as bad as you can imagine. You have a emotional reaction to this story. You're thinking of the poor kids. You're feeling devastated. It's hard to stomach this moment where you're hearing the story from your friend. Your friend sees how upset you are, and they say, I was just kidding. I don't know. I was kidding. I'm so sorry. Never mind that someone would have some insane motives like that to bring out some kind of reaction and make any kind of joke about such a horrific potential event. But you in this moment, when you find out that this did not happen, are no longer grieving, right? Who would you be grieving? It didn't happen. So in one moment, you're feeling some kind of grief or you're emotionally moved by a story that you thought was true. You find out it was a prank and you're no longer grieving. You're no longer sad about this family because it didn't happen. Your emotions are keyed into reality, and this is not reality. But if we take this premise and this claim that our emotions are keyed into reality, then how can you make sense of the fact that you're still somehow moved if you watched a movie about this happen? Let's say it wasn't your friend who told you about the story, but you went into a movie theater and it was about this horrible situation of this family whose house went up in flames. You know it's not real, but when we go to the movies and when we read books, even when we know they're fictions, we can still emote, we can still be moved. But it shouldn't be possible, right? Because when we find out things didn't happen, we're relieved.
You like this video?
We know that fiction is not.
No, it's boring.
Here's 3 claims we're working with. 1, our emotions are keyed into reality. So the things that we feel are reflective of reality in some way. Never mind whether we're being dramatic or if we're not reacting appropriately. But the things that we're feeling do somehow correspond to an actual event that happened in reality. But the second claim is that we know that fiction is not real. And this also shouldn't be controversial. If you go into a haunted house or if you read a sci-fi novel, you know that it's a fiction, it's not real. However, the third claim is that we respond emotionally to fiction. And that's just true. If you go into a haunted house, you know it's not real, but you can still react emotionally. You can scream and yell. Or if you read a romance novel that you know is not based on a true story, you can cry, and it might even affect you for years. So let's say you're having a health scare. You have some tests and they are all abnormal and you don't know what it means. So for weeks you've had so much anxiety. You're waiting for the doctor to come in the room and you're expecting the worst news. But instead, the doctor comes in and says, "You are okay. Everything's okay. I checked, everything's fine."
After being told that your blood work is okay after weeks of worrying, would it make any sense to continue wondering if that blood work result would be okay? No. You would be relieved the moment you found out that your health is fine. But remember, finding out something is fiction does not always relieve us, like in our dreams or books or movies.
You can cry belligerently at the end of a movie and people will still tell you, "It's not real, it's not real, it's just a movie, it's not based on a true story." And you're still gonna probably feel sad. But why doesn't that apply to this situation where when the doctor says, "No, everything's fine, don't worry," you become happy? You were told that it's not real and you became happy. But when you read a book and you know it's not real, you still can be sad. Not all three of these can be true. Because it would be incomprehensible to make sense of why we can be moved by things that we know are not real, but at the same time, we like to believe that our emotions are keyed into reality. The things that we feel reflect the actual world around us. But is that really true? Are our emotions keyed into reality? Because if they are, then why would we ever react emotionally to fiction? We know it's not real and we know it's not part of reality. I want to know what claim you would reject. Do you think that our emotions are not keyed into reality? And if so, then you need to be able to explain why we feel relief when we hear that the fire in the house was not real or that our health scare was not real and we feel relieved. But when we find out that a book's not real, we still feel moved. They shouldn't be able to all be true. So how would you solve this?